All right, here we go in 3, 2, 1. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Sports Medicine Broadcast, a podcast to promote and improve your practice as an athletic trainer. I'm Jeremy Jackson, host of the show, but Victoria Morris has put together a whole list of people that she wants to speak with. So last year on Twitter during Black History Month, she each day highlighted one of the athletic trainers that has impacted her life or that she wants to meet. And so I said, hey, let's do this on a podcast. So she took that list and reached out to the people. So Victoria, thanks for doing all the work to get the names and everything like that. But our guest for today is Dr. Mercedes Hemmins. She works at the California University of Pennsylvania. She's been certified for 10 years, working for 9. She works with Pat's Inclusivity Committee, and she is a Starbucks enthusiast. So we were talking earlier about how it's cold here in the Houston or in Texas area because Victoria is like about 2 hours north of me, so it should be even colder for her. But then over in Pennsylvania, they're already below freezing. So maybe we'll have to hear about your favorite Starbucks as well as we get to know who you are, Dr. Mercedes Hemmins. So this one is sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/diversity and inclusion. Again, sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/diversity and inclusion. So all of those are spelled out. There's no symbols or anything like that to make it difficult. Diversity and inclusion. So let's get to know a little bit about Dr. Himmons, who you are, where you're from, and things like that, and understanding your story before we really get into the diversity and inclusion piece. So, Dr. Himmons, if I walk down the hallway at your parents' house, right, what are the pictures? What are the stories going to tell me?
I'm trying to think because it's changed over the years. So there's a lot of pictures from my childhood, and I can be very sassy. I'm a sassy kind of lady. So I think the sass shows in the pictures, even from a young age. And I'm always in a dress. And consequently enough, I don't really like dresses now. So it's like, oh, look at little Mercedes. She's all sassy and dressed up with bows and just everything. And I don't necessarily like all that now. So it'll tell the story of a sassy little girl. And of course, my accomplishments are up on the wall. So it's pretty much, I don't want to say a shrine to me, but you can definitely tell that I live there and my family's proud.
All right, so tell me a little bit more, because if I look at the pictures, we have a whole wall covered of pictures. Because I have 5 kids now, and so we got pictures where they're in the mud, or pictures where they're crying in Santa's lap, and or when they're out at the deer lease and shooting a gun, that kind of thing. So what other story besides being a sassy dress wearer? What else would I learn about you by looking at just those pictures?
Um, let's see, there's pictures like professional pictures of myself and my mom. I grew up in a single parent household, so I lived with my mom, my grandmom, my aunt, and my cousin. I'm an only child on my mother's side, but even though I'm an only child, I grew up with my older cousin, and we're 7 years apart. So it was kind of like I had a sibling. So there's pictures of us together, a lot of pictures from just family outings. And those are usually just us sitting around tables at holidays, or we like to party and gather. So we always would have once a month, we used to do like a chat and chew, and everybody would go to one house and we just would cook, bake, and just sit around. The adults would have wine and such. So it really was just like a lot of family things. So I'm not usually in a picture by myself. It's usually me surrounded with a family member, anybody, family wise. So I guess you could say it really would be, I'm family oriented, and I am still very family oriented and friends. Everybody around me is always, they're always around me in some way. And I guess that's probably why I like to have pictures and pictures on my wall now.
So tell me a little bit more about this shrine to Dr. Mercedes, about the accomplishments. What are some of those plaques that you have hanging on the wall?
So the one is I went to Cal U for undergrad and for my master's, and the curriculum back then, we actually became certified EMTs through the program. So my EMT certificate and like the first patch that they give you is in a frame and it's hanging on the wall. My high school diploma is on the mantle. My high school actually just was recently closed, and it is the first all girls Catholic high school in the country. So my diploma is still on the mantle, and I have not hung my bachelor's because I don't like it. It's very ugly in my opinion, and I just ordered a reprint of it so that can go up. And my graduation picture from my bachelor's and my PhD are hanging. I haven't framed my PhD yet, but it will go up in that accomplishment setting.
All right. So you talked about being a single parent and you lived with your grandma and your aunt, and then you have all these things hung up on the wall. What does your family history of, you know, getting a bachelor's and master's look like? Has anybody else in your family done that?
No, so I am first generation for college, and my my mom has two sisters. The oldest sister, she has an associate's degree, and my aunt, the middle one, I believe she has an associate's, but she's also been off and on taking classes to finish to get a bachelor's. My mom went to high school. My grandmother, she went to high school, so I am first generation, figured everything out somehow, some way, and here I am.
Yeah, my older sister, she has a master's, but neither of my parents went to college, but both graduated from high school. So I think I'm technically first generation
Yes.
college graduate, but my older sister graduated as well. So
I can't
um,
I can't say that. My parents, but well, so my dad was a high school dropout. And then my mom has her associates and she has her bachelor's. And when I went and got my bachelor's, my dad decided to go back and get his GED. He hasn't needed it, like it's never affected him, but he was like, all of my kids graduated high school, now they're in college, like I want to add that. So we threw him a big like graduation party, like congratulations, you got your GED.
It is an accomplishment, so we should
it,
celebrate everything.
it is.
now, Mercedes or Dr. Himmons,
Feel free
you
to call me Mercedes.
you sound maybe like you're from the South. Right? So are you? Cause you said you went to Cal U there in Pennsylvania. Are you from the South?
I am not. I am from Philadelphia, and I'm from North Philadelphia. So that is the inner city. And I went to school at Cal, which is on the other side of the state near Pittsburgh. But my father's side of the family is from North Carolina. So I think being around his side of the family kind of gave me a little southern twang at some point. I'm not sure where it came from, but a lot of people do think I am from the South until they get to know me and know I'm from North Philly.
Yeah. All right. I've never had the pleasure of going there, and I know that you've talked a couple times on the athletic training chat, where you've just been recently made a co-host about how when NETA is there in Philadelphia to come and hit you up, just follow you around, and you can show us all the
Yeah.
good spots. So
Problem.
if you're going to NATA, make sure you hit up Dr. Himmons, and then she'll give you all the details on the good places to go. So one of my
Definitely.
favorite foods is Philly cheesesteak, and so I've only had Philly cheesesteak down here in Houston because I've never been up to Philly. So I can't wait until the opportunity to go up to Philadelphia and have a real, genuine Philadelphia cheesesteak. So
Yes, please, because you're not gonna want the ones in Houston anymore. I'm sure.
yeah. So we'll see. I have a friend that's actually from Pennsylvania, and he said that they use some sort of like marinara sauce on some of them or something like that. I don't know.
Yes, that would be like a pizza cheesesteak, because we just have to complicate everything. So you have your typical cheesesteak, you have a pizza cheesesteak, or it's like a cheesesteak hoagie, and that will be with like lettuce, tomato, and a real cheesesteak does not have green peppers and onions, contrary to what people
Wait.
make.
A real
Wait.
cheesesteak doesn't have green peppers and onions?
No, like you could get fried onions, but we don't do the green peppers. I don't
There's
know.
no like bell peppers on there? Like, wait,
No.
hold on.
Green peppers, you could say, oh, well, not really green peppers. More so like a hot pepper and like a banana pepper. But that's not like
I've been lied to. I've been
Yeah.
lied to.
Yeah.
you have literally people. I'm like, that's not a cheesesteak with these peppers and onions. I would say that's more of like an Italian beef with peppers and onions. But
So what is an actual Philly cheesesteak? So what really goes on there besides bread and meat?
so bread, meat, cheese, usually American cheese, or you could get cheese whiz because we put cheese whiz on everything. Uh, but it would be the meat, the cheese, fried onions, salt, pepper, and ketchup. Like maybe even mayo if you like mayo, but it's not a requirement. So
Man, I haven't had breakfast. Now I'm hungry. Now I need to make me a cheesesteak.
I would highly recommend just making your own. And it has to be a specific type of roll, like an Amoroso roll, but that's not sold everywhere. So really you just have to get like a hoagie roll, or a sub roll in the South, maybe. Hero.
Hold on. I'm writing this down.
I was like, ooh, I don't know. Y'all haven't had real cheesesteaks. So yes, when y'all come to Philly, feel free to, maybe we can make a caravan to somewhere, but you gotta experience the real deal.
I'm looking forward to that someday, even if I don't go this summer.
Yes.
So we're talking about being from different places, and you've talked about how you've been taking time for your mental health and taking trips. You went to Cairo and rode on a camel, overlooking the pyramids during sunset when you were talking on I think the most recent episode with Athletic Training Chat, and that's been an important part of you just developing as a professional, is taking that time away. What are some of the trips that you have really enjoyed, like maybe your top trip so far, and then what do you look forward to doing as well?
Okay, so I kind of wow myself with how like my top trip and like my dream destinations have changed within the past 5 years. But I just always wanted to go to Paris and Rome, specifically Vatican City. Like that was top 1 and 2, with Turks and Caicos being number 3. And in 2019, that was 2 years ago. But 2 years ago, I was able to knock out Paris and Italy together. So I spent 10 days with one of my friends, and we went to Paris for, I believe that was about 3 days. And then we spent the rest of the time in Italy. So we went to Rome, we went to Vatican City. We also went to Florence. So that was probably the highlight of my life at the time. So that was like, wow, I finally did my dream trip. I really don't need to go anywhere else, but of course I want to see the world. And I love all things ancient Egypt. So going to Egypt was probably the now highlight of my life, to see everything and to see the pyramids. It didn't compare. Like the Eiffel Tower and the Leaning Tower of Pisa, they don't compare to the pyramids because they are just massive. And to finally see them in person was just like, my jaw dropped, because I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm finally here. And then to ride a camel at sunset overlooking the pyramids, it was like, wow, I'm here in Egypt. So I would say now my dream Other than Turks and Caicos, like I have to go there. It just looks beautiful. I would say my next biggest would be I want to go back to Italy, no matter where it is, because it was just beautiful. But anywhere in Africa, I really want to go to South Africa since I've now been to Northern Africa. But like Johannesburg, Pretoria, Cape Town, any of those destinations, I really want to go there. But I also want to go to Ghana because I think I have some roots in Ghana. I'm not exactly sure, but anywhere is fine by me. Maybe Portugal is up next. I actually started looking where's my next trip. So Portugal is pretty up on the list. A lot of people are recommending it, and it seems fairly inexpensive.
All right. So you talked about when you went to a all-girls Catholic high school, the first one there, and you said in the state or the city?
In the nation.
In the nation. Okay, and that's just recently closed. Did y'all have sports in high school, and did you have an athletic trainer?
We had sports. We did not have an athletic trainer. I don't even think she was a physical therapist, the lady that was there. She definitely wasn't the school nurse, but she was always around, and she seemed to always have like medical supplies. I know for a fact she was not a physical therapist or an athletic trainer, but the athletic director was the one that told me about athletic training, and I was just confused, like, oh, what are you talking about? Because we don't have one, and you know about it, but we have sports. So it was just like, okay. So that was my first in to athletic training. I never knew of even any of my friends having an athletic trainer at their schools, whether they went to Catholic school or public school.
So just that conversation made you decide, hey, I'm going to go to school for this, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so she told me, she was like, I think you'll be a great athletic trainer. I actually was the manager for the basketball teams. So I was just always around, and she's like, oh, you should be an athletic trainer. And I'm like, what is that? So I researched athletic training, and I was like, okay, this sounds pretty cool. I get to work with people. I can help people, and then also still have like a healthcare medical background. So it was very intriguing, and I researched where athletic training programs were. I did not want to stay in Philly, so Temple was out of the question. So I did my research, and Cal at the time was one of the top programs, and I also noticed that they had a lot of big names in athletic training. So I said, that's where I want to go. I visited Cal my junior year of high school, and I fell in love with the campus. Everyone that I met on campus was very pleasant, and it just really had that small hometown, small vibe that I thought I was looking for. And I definitely got it, and I don't regret coming here. And I always talk about my experience here. So I think it just all went well, worked out in its own crazy way.
All right, so you've been certified for 10 years, 9 years practicing as an athletic trainer. What has been the most impactful, most important thing about the profession of athletic training for you?
Ooh, most impactful. Definitely, I would say the relationships. So not only just with my coworkers, but the relationships that I get to have with my patients. Really just being there and being an advocate for them in any way that I can, getting to know their stories. And me personally, I love to know anybody's why, and that was a huge driving factor in my dissertation research. So being able to make relationships and have an impact on not even just my coworkers, but the athletic training students that we've had and our patient population, then that's what's impacting me the most.
So for me, we're talking about diversity and inclusion is kind of the overall theme, but
Mhm.
from I guess I haven't researched it. I don't know a whole lot about it. Um, but diversity means people that are not the same, and then inclusion means including those thoughts, opinions, perspectives um, in the conversation. And a large part of that is relationships, like getting to know the person. It's not just, hey, you ankle sprain over here, do this exercise. It's, oh, hey, you Mercedes, how
Mhm.
are you doing today? And that's part of what we do in our athletic training facility is, hey, what's your pain level, and then how are you feeling as a person today, and then is there
Mhm.
anything else I need to know about, anything else going on, that's concerning you right now. And again, it's about that building relationship and including their outside life other than that one specific injury in the whole process. Um,
Yeah.
and again, that's why we've spent the first part of the podcast just getting to know who you, as Dr. Mercedes Hemmins, are.
Mhm.
So, with that, let's kind of move into the focus on diversity and inclusion. And why don't you start us off with your working definition of both diversity and inclusion?
Okay. So my, we'll say, working, very fluid definitions of diversity and inclusion would be, diversity is having multiple people, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of gender or sexual identity, all of that in the same place. So, let's have men, women, non-binary, and LGBTQ plus, or anybody that's questioning, just all kind of intersections, so to speak, um, in one place. So that's diversity for me. And inclusion is just making sure that all those people are heard and seen, and their feelings, their opinions are taken into account, um, because we all are going to have differing opinions about things. We, may do things differently than someone else, but if they're doing something and it's also efficient and effective, then let's take that into account and maybe we can use that. And that's, professionally, personally, anything. Just making sure to keep that mindset of my mindset and what I've learned is not the only way.
So Daria is watching live online, and she said she heard someone use the word belonging instead of inclusion, and
Mhm.
so she uses that. What are your thoughts there?
I definitely would agree with belonging, and just a, student athlete population. For my research, a lot of higher education, and we can say high school, just in general, African Americans or Black people. I usually say Black people, but some people prefer African American. Don't have a sense of belonging in their campus community, and that's where campuses, institutions tend to lose diversity, because campuses and institutions are looking for, I hate to say it, the students are just a number and they want to keep enrollment up, but they're not doing anything to include and make the students feel like they belong. And that can happen just on a team as well. So, we can work together on a team. And if I don't feel like I belong on that team and no one is, asking my opinion or making me feel included, then I'm not going to feel like I belong. I'm going to seek to do something elsewhere or try to do something on my own.
So here at Pasadena High School, we are probably 95% Hispanic.
Hmm.
There's probably like, I don't know, I would say 3% white, maybe 1% black, and then I'd say 1% other, something like that. Um, and so I can definitely see how it would be easy for someone to not feel like they belong if they're not Hispanic and speaking Spanish here. Um, so I have two foster daughters that are black, and some of the female athletes that come in that are black, I try to, I'll say like, hey, I like your hair, or, hey, look, how do you do this with your hair, that kind of thing, to help, I guess, bridge the gap, but also because I want to learn, because I am obviously white, I have no hair, And so, just learning from them, but including part of their life and their culture, and just I'm not taking it, but learning from them.
Mhm.
Is that an okay way for me to help them feel belonged?
I would say yes, and it also depends on your approach. If somebody comes to me and I know that they have no malintent or any malicious vibes going on, then if someone asks me something, I'm more than happy to answer it and teach. So that is one way to make someone feel comfortable and approachable, as well as giving them a sense of belonging, because you're asking them, you've noticed something about them, and then you're asking them, how did they do it? And can you help me to understand, to learn, to actually practice and do something? So I think that's definitely one way that you can work on a sense of belonging.
So again,
I actually,
go ahead, go Victoria.
I was just going to say, I am the opposite of Jeremy. I am, and I hope my bell does not go off in just a second. I apologize if it does. But I'm at a rural Texas high school. Our population is mostly white. And I have a handful of Black athletes. Like, I don't have very many. I have one Black coach. And then the only other, person of color on my campus is our superintendent. He's a Black guy. Everybody else is white. I think we have maybe one Hispanic teacher who teaches Spanish. But other than that, it's white women. And so I get athletes that come in all the time, and I'm like, they've had a rough day or something happened outside of school. And I'm like, I don't know how to handle this. And there it goes. Okay, there it goes. And so I just want to be like, I go to my basketball coach all the time, and I'm like, hey, can you talk to this kid, or can you tell me, like, how do I approach this kid? Because I don't know what to do. And if somebody did that to you, Mercedes, like, how would you handle that? Would you be okay with that? Like, sometimes I just feel insecure about going all the time.
Right. No, I completely understand. But I would say, if somebody approached me and asked me to help them to help, a Black student athlete, then I have no problem with that, because at the same time, if I don't understand something, I'm going to approach someone and ask them for help. There's things that I can't relate to that maybe one of my white student athletes is going through, because we just have a disconnect in how we were brought up, or just how we go about our daily lives. But there are things that I can relate to, and I would rather a coach or strength and conditioning coach, whoever, I would rather them ask for help than trying to figure it out and maybe it not be best delivered in the way that they do it. So it's all about that understanding and trying to take that extra step to get to figure out how you can help and make that sense of belonging, inclusion, and comfortability.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you.
So I had a interaction. I was asking someone, "Hey, does this offend you?" or this kind of thing, and they're like, "Oh, why don't you just go research it yourself?" And so for me, it's kind of like tricky. Like Victoria was saying, I don't want to always be asking you, but I do want your input. And so, if someone is in that situation where they feel like they are burdening you, what might you suggest for that person?
I'm always going to lead someone to something that they can read, or something that they can listen to, some sort of resource that I know of that has maybe helped someone else to understand. But at the same time, me personally, I don't want you to research misinformation. I would rather to have that conversation with you. So I would never take it as a burden. I've honestly taken on a lot personally where I feel that I have to educate others in terms of diversity and not necessarily inclusion, because I'm still learning myself about that, but in terms of how whiteness and Blackness translates into America. I rather let's learn together. If it's something that I'm not proficient on, then that's fine, because which most people wouldn't know, but I haven't experienced racism in a way that others have. So like I don't have any situations where I felt left out or I was targeted, other than being a Black woman growing up in North Philadelphia that has its own issues. But I've never been in a situation where someone was overtly racist to me. So I just want us to learn together. And if you take the time to understand and you're taking the time to seek help, then I would never say like, oh, I don't feel like teaching you. But maybe it might be one day where I'm just like, oh, read this, But for the most part, let's talk it out, because I think that's how people can best understand what they need to understand.
Victoria, you have some questions?
Yeah, so a big question I have, and I know the last year and a half, a lot of talks been going on like AT Twitter and even in Facebook groups about the lack of things that the NATA are doing or districts are doing, or even like local state associations are doing as far as racism, diversity, inclusion, things like that. So Mercedes, what are some things you want to see maybe at the local level or even the district level? I know you're, the EDAC rep for Pennsylvania. And then, I mean, what would you want to see from NATA?
Whew, so much. Well, honestly, not to toot our horn, but I honestly think that PETS is doing what PETS needs to do in terms of trying to bridge the gap. As the inclusive, so within PETS, inclusivity houses diversity and LGBTQ plus. So I am the chairperson for the whole committee, but I also chair the diversity side, and Bonnie Seipel chairs the LGBTQ plus side. But we work together. I would honestly say that I have carte blanche to do education or put something out. It's not a matter of, oh, we can't say that, we can't do that. So I think that's, important for all of this. Whereas I know NATA has been very much, we can't discuss things because of a political background, where, racism is a public health issue. So we are healthcare providers, and I would think that it would be something we could talk about. Taking that political side out of everything, because at the end of the day, we're talking about humanity and just being humans to each other, being kind, and actually understanding history and the other side of things. So yes, you may know about something, but do you understand how that affects your patients? The NATA side of things, I don't understand, because you have, I want to say maybe less than 20% of certified athletic trainers in the country are diverse in some way. And then your patient population across the board is more diverse. So the people that we as athletic trainers are serving, they're affected by these situations. So we need to make them feel like they belong and they matter, and it all comes together. It's not a political issue. I think the district level, being on that end, they're trying from what I know. But I think things are just restricted in the state levels, as well as you can only do but so much to tie NATA to it. So that's the issue there with them. But like I said, I think, with PETS and ourselves, we have an initiative to get athletic training education out to high schools that have a pretty diverse ethnically population, so that we can increase knowledge about athletic training, as well as get that information to more diverse students to have increased diversity in the profession. And then we also, anything that I find that I can put out to the members about educating in some sort of way, I will put it out. Because I think, as a highly white population in the state of Pennsylvania, we need to know. And just because it's always been one way doesn't mean that that way is the right way. And I think it does reflect on our leadership that they are actively trying to become educated and make sure that they have all the right tools and resources so that we can educate the members and put things into practice. So I think it's more so just don't be so apprehensive with everything. You have to show that you're willing to learn and willing to understand versus always being so defensive about everything. Because at the end of the day, the diverse population could just continue to be oppressed and defensive about everything. Whereas we are the ones doing the work to educate, and we're doing all of the work for everything as a whole. And it's not our jobs to educate. Like, you should want to know about these things.
Right. So you said that like you have a lot that you would like to change with the NATA level, that political side. So I just want to throw out like a scenario out there that you just got elected NATA president. Like, congratulations, you're our next NATA president. What would your platform be for diversity and inclusion within our profession? And like, what would you want NATA to do maybe to get rid of that political side of it and make it more about our patients and about healthcare in general?
Ooh. I think personally, I would have to first understand the inner workings of NATA, because I think that's what is the holding factor for things to become implemented and maybe worked on. My platform would just be that whole everybody matters and everybody has a voice. And granted, some people are going to be mad about certain things that we do. Not everyone is going to be happy, but we need to just make sure that we are including everyone's opinion, and we're doing what's best for our patients in the long run, because that's why we do what we do. And if that's not why we do what we do, then we have something to work on. But just that, I would say the inclusion and listening to understand, not just to reply, is very important. And I think being approachable, me as a person, I'm very personable and approachable. So I want to listen and I want to hear what you have to say. And I'm going to try to do my best to have that implemented in some way. It might not be right away, but it'll be worked on. So I think if, I could one day be NATA president, it would just be, let's talk it out. Let's not be so, oh, I did this and this is how we're going to do it. Let's listen to each other and work together and not be so divided with everything, because I think we have these extremes of, this is the like old guard, and now we have the new forward thinking progressive, population in general, and they're battling each other versus let's listen and try to, change things for the better.
Okay, yeah, definitely makes sense. I like how you're like, we need to understand the NATA, because I know a lot of people, they go on social media and they blast what the NATA does, or they blast what certain companies do or governments do. And we don't understand what the board of directors and the president, what they're doing behind the scenes. Like, yeah, they get to meet up, in Dallas and talk things out. And then they post these reports or they send out emails. but we don't know the decision making behind all that. Like, who did they talk to? Who have they, you know, sat down and discussed things with? Did they discuss anything with anybody? We don't know that. So I liked how that was your first reaction. And then like how you talk about everybody matters and you should have a voice. I feel like sometimes we forget that. We think that like only certain groups need to weigh in, whereas I feel like if you don't understand something, pop in, say, hey, I don't understand what's going on, or I don't understand why we're doing this, versus just we're going to focus on group A or group B or group C. Like, we're just going to let you have all the say. Mm-hmm. So I definitely kind of like that. It kind of leads into my next question, actually, which is pretty cool. So if companies or school districts or even your university is looking to like diversify, not just among athletic training, but maybe in athletics overall. I mean, if you look at the stats, a lot of your coaches are older white males. And so maybe we're wanting to get females in there, or we're wanting to get younger generations in there. What would be some advice you would give to those companies or those athletic directors or the hiring managers to get more diversity in their companies?
I think it depends heavily on demographic. I'll go ahead and just speak about Cal. Cal is a small rural town in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. And literally the closest, I guess, not civilization, that's the wrong way to put it, but like Walmart is like 20 minutes away. So you have to go far to get to, I guess, maybe comfortability. So it's just like, what are you going to do to make people understand that, you know, there's not much in the town, but the surroundings and the campus community is welcoming or inviting, or what can it do for me? Like, why should I come here versus, you know, the actual city of Pittsburgh? Because Cal would be like the midpoint between Pittsburgh and Morgantown, West Virginia, where WVU is. So why should I come here versus just going to the city or just going to WVU? I think people really need to play on the demographic, because it might not have anything to do with the institution. It might just be where it's situated. You know, some people of color may not think this is the best area because there's not a lot of diversity here. So just let me know what you're doing to increase the diversity. Do you care? Do you not care? What does your campus community look like? And, you know, how are you retaining these people? Retention is very important to me overall, not just in athletic training, not just in our school, but overall, just higher education retention is declining. So what are you doing about it? I asked a lot of questions, so I think if you can provide those answers of, you know, what do you do about this? What do you think about this situation? How would this be handled? If you can give me those answers, then that's gonna help you in the long run. And 9 out of 10, it is gonna help in general with your efforts. It just be transparent. Like, don't tell me one thing and then I get there and it's a whole other thing. And that's not even just athletic training, that's in life, where people are very much like, oh, I'm going to tell you this because I want you to do this, and I'm going to leave this part out. So I think that also reflects back on some situations within the NATA, there's no transparency. So we have to question a lot of motives, a lot of things that we're being told. That transparency is going to be key for a lot of things, I think, in my opinion.
So you mentioned retention. And I know me at the secondary school level, like teachers are quitting like left and right. Athletic trainers are quitting left. And I mean, like, I know the athletic trainers in my football district, every single one of them I've talked to, and even myself, like, we've had those moments where we're like, we're done. Like, printing out the letter of resignation, we are moving on, we're getting out of the profession, or we're just getting out of the high school level in general. But you mentioned the retention at the higher education is the same thing. Do you think like inclusion and diversity have like enough, do you think that affects it at all? I mean, I would think so.
Yes, I think it does affect it, but also at the end of the day, I think it's the way people are being treated as employees. If I don't feel that my institution values me, then why should I stay? And I think I have that perspective because I think at this point I'm an older millennial, but I have that mentality of if you don't value me as an employee, why am I going to stay? Why am I going to continue to provide services for you and do something for you when you don't care if I'm happy, you don't care about my mental well-being, you don't provide me anything? I could just go somewhere else, which is also the mentality of the student athletes, where if I'm not getting what I want here, I can transfer somewhere else to try to get it there. And, they may or may not get it once they transfer, if they do. But people want to feel valued. People want to feel appreciated, whether it's, me as a Black woman at a predominantly white institution, or a white woman at a predominantly white institution. Do you feel valued? Why are you there? Why should I stay here? Because I can go somewhere else. And I think institutions as a whole are missing that point, and it's just do this, versus how can we help you to help us. I think I probably said that a lot within the past 6 months of help me to help you. Like, it's really that simple. And I can't speak for everywhere, but just my own close knit, like, we help each other. I do feel valued. I am a part of the team. The institution is trying to, figure out whatever way that they can to keep the employees happy in whatever they can do. But also it goes with the past year and a half has just been crazy and everybody's trying to figure everything out at the same time, and people want those instant answers, and sometimes people don't have the time to wait for the answer. But figure out how we can help each other. Like, we need to lean on each other. We need to be valued, appreciated. And if you don't feel that, then people are going to leave. And sometimes probably finances are an issue too, where you want me to do all this work and you're not paying me enough. Just make it make sense. So it's like, we know the money is there and you're not trying to help me, so I'm gonna go.
No, yeah, I mean, that goes into one of my favorite quotes, and we've been using it a lot here at our school district, but like, people don't care how much, and I know you guys have heard this, but like, people don't care how much you know until they know you care. And that's not just for athletic training, that's not just for coaching and healthcare, that's for like institutions as well. Like, we don't know that you care about us unless you show it, unless you're like, hey, thanks for doing the job. I mean, I know as athletic trainers, that's all we want is a thank you. Like, hey, thanks for doing your job. Thank you for being here 10, 12 hours a day. Thanks for getting my athlete back, or that athlete that says, thanks for rehabbing me because I scored that 3-point shot last night, or I got the touchdown in the game. Like, that's all we want. And I feel like institutions aren't getting that. They're like, oh, you showed up to work today. Like, okay, we're just going to throw everything on you. And it's like, yeah, I showed up to work, but I'm not really here. Like, I'm here, but I'm not here. I'm not here mentally.
Mentally gone.
And that's been me the last couple of weeks. I've been here, but I'm not really here. And I'm finally getting better at that. Football's over, so I'm finally getting better with that. So I think my last question that I have, and it's a really important one because it's the whole question that like started this whole thing I did on Twitter last year, and kind of why Jeremy and I, decided to do this podcast. But listeners out there, they want to be allies. I know a lot of, especially, people on AT Twitter and over on Facebook, I have a lot of people, they want to be an ally, but they don't know how to be. Like, they don't know what they need to do, what they need to say, what they need to hear. So what would be your advice to somebody who wants to be an ally? What would you like to see from them, hear from them?
Me personally, I want to know and feel comfortable in the fact that if you see something wrong, you're going to call it out. And you're not just going to let it happen. And even if you don't call it out, let's say there's a situation where, you know, you're at an institution and there's a maybe a racial slur that happens between two student athletes, and you may not feel comfortable calling it out right then and there, but you later on that day say, hey, let me talk to you for a second, this is what I thought about this, or why did you say that, understanding why it was said and correcting it if it was a negative thing, because we know some slurs can be used interchangeably as terms of endearment. But knowing that you are going to make the effort to listen, to understand, and to act, not just when someone is looking. To know that you're going to do the right thing when no one else is around, as well as you're going to just step in if you see a need for you to step in. I can honestly say that everyone I have surrounding me that is not a person of color, I am comfortable with knowing that if something happens, they're going to call it out. And 9 out of 10, the people that I know are going to do it right then and there versus pulling somebody to the side or talking about it later. They're going to do what needs to be done to eradicate this negative behavior. And they take the time to understand history. I know there's this whole uproar about critical race theory, and it honestly cracks me up because critical race theory is not taught to K to 12. I personally did not learn about it until my doctoral program. So there's nothing that we need to be in an uproar about because it isn't taboo. And at the end of the day, it's history. And if you don't understand history, then that's a problem. So you have to learn it to know. And we're not just teaching kindergartners about race and, things that happen in America. So if I know that you're doing the right thing and you're taking steps to learn, taking steps to understand, and putting them into action, that's how you can best be an ally, in my opinion.
So on that same thing, understanding history, your Twitter handle is actually Memoir Vitae, which I looked it up. It's a record of my life. That's essentially what that means, correct?
Yes, and it also means remember to live.
Remember to live? Oh, okay. So if you would like to understand the history of Dr. Himmons, you could find her on Twitter there. I'll have a link there, but it should be easy to. What is your not your Twitter handle, but your name on there? Does it say it says Dr. Mercedes, correct?
I think so.
Oh, hold on, I'm totally gonna look this up. I got us.
I know I
So Victoria, look it up. So I think it says Dr. Mercedes.
Mhm.
If you're gonna look her up on Twitter, so you can get a record of her life or remember to live and understand her history, where she's coming from. We've talked a lot about it today, and I want to kind of I don't know if confess is the right word, but we went through a transracial adoption training because we're hoping to adopt these two black girls that are our foster daughters. And one of the things that the panelists, which were all black females that were adopted into white families,
Mhm.
they kept saying was, the white adoptee or the white thing like this. And for me, I was like, why do they have to keep saying white? Why? And so it frustrated me, and I almost just kind of like turned the Zoom call off or walked away. But a couple days later, I was like, they're sharing their story. I'm not approaching it like, oh, hey, I'm a white savior. I just opened up my home because kids needed a home, and
Yes.
it didn't matter who,
Mm-hmm.
but they're sharing their story, their perspective, because they're adults that have lived through that situation. So I
Exactly.
need to stop and listen. I need to stop and take a record of their life so that I can grow. So it's understandable for, as we go through this, you should feel some pain points or some resistance points, because it should be causing you to grow. Just like if you're lifting weights, if you don't feel any resistance, you're not going to get any stronger. And so remember that it's okay to feel those things as long as you process them in a healthy way, and don't just dig in your heels deeper. Like she said, take a temperature of the room, see what's going on. Victoria, did you find it for us?
Yeah, so I've just found it. It's actually Dr. Mercedes LATATC, and then I think I love your picture, by the way, your profile picture. You have your balloons with the DR on there. That's awesome.
Yes, I had a graduation party finally, so it was like, yes, let's celebrate, and we're finally done.
All right, favorite book or quote or movie that you think people should just go watch just because you do?
Okay, so my favorite quote, and I have said it multiple times today, is from Stephen Covey, and it is, "Listen with the intent to understand, not with the intent to reply." Literally top quote of my life. My favorite movie, it probably is Talladega Nights because it's so stupid, but it's hilarious in my opinion. How is that my favorite book? Ooh, there's a lot, but my favorite book as of recent is The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates, and it honestly was very eye-opening to read a story about basically about slaves, and I want to say it was the 1800s. I forget. But a slave story back in the day and the process of trying to get to freedom. And it was written so well that I felt I was in the story. So I think it was a quick read. I mean, I say it was a quick read, but it might not be for everyone. But it definitely was very well written. It might be. I think it was on Oprah's list of books for Oprah's book club, so it's easily accessible. But yeah, I think those are all my favorites.
All right, and
And
let's see if we can get Victoria riled up. Which is the best Marvel movie?
Captain America, Winter Soldier,
No.
by
I
far.
was acting back to Mercedes Hemmins here. She's the doctor.
Marvel movie. Okay, wait. So every time it's on, I will watch Avengers Infinity War. I will watch that multiple times. And basically all the Avengers movies, because I do have a goal to watch them all in order. I have a goal to do that. I will do it. But I don't know like the beginnings of them. Sorry, Victoria.
No, okay. I thought we could be friends. I was like, oh, we can watch all the Marvel.
We can. Like, we can watch them all together. If you can lead me to a link that puts them in chronological order, perfect.
I got you.
Thank you.
All right, Victoria is all over social media. She, I think, is most famous on TikTok. Victoria, what's the best way for somebody to get a hold of you?
So if anybody wants to get a hold of me, actually my Twitter's probably going to be the best.
Okay.
I can actually access it on my phone at school. So, but that's going to be Morris, MORRIS_ATC on there. And then if anybody does want to watch my TikToks, which I mean, all for it, let's get to 100,000. That's going to be Coach Morris AT on TikTok.
All right, so check out Victoria. Again, she's the one that kind of put all this together. All I did was reach out and say, hey, I like what you're doing. Can we work together? And she said, yes, I'm all about it. So she put all the list together, and I'm glad we started off with Dr. Mercedes Hemmins. And again, she said you can get her on Twitter at Memoria Vitae. I can't spell anyway, so just find it on there. Just search for anything like that on Twitter, or once the podcast comes out with diversity and inclusion. So sportsmedicinebroadcast.com/diversity and inclusion. So one of my partners is physicaltherapy.com, and you can go to physicaltherapy.com/one free course, and they will help you. That one free course, it may be a 3 or 4 hour course, whatever it is, to get you those CEUs. They're part of the reason I was able to get the blood flow restriction, because when they donated to the podcast, I used that money to help pay for that blood flow restriction course here for the school. But again, it's a great opportunity. It's $99 for 1 year to all the CEUs that you can get in 1 year. So check them out. Tanya Watson was commenting on the Facebook Live and said, get you a Disney Plus subscription, and I think they have them in order. I don't know, but Victoria will post them in order today, because I know that's the only thing she's thinking about right now is Marvel. So
I do have Disney Plus, so yes, let me know.
All right, so for Jeremy, Dr. Mercedes Hemmins, Victoria Morris, and the Sports Medicine Broadcast. This is Diversity and Inclusion. That is a wrap. Thanks.
Thank you.